We're at the halfway point in the course now. How are you finding it? So let's do a quick look at the last day's slides. Did you get the slides from the college?
Yeah.
You got the slides. We'll just skip through them, pop in any questions you have in the chat if needs be. We looked at color theory, color choice, how that can impact design. A lot of these things, try and apply them to your project. You're going to be working on a project very soon, and you will be given 4 examples of sort of businesses that need interfaces, whether it's some kind of a device or whether it's a website or these type of things. And try and apply what you've learned about color theory. And we also did some work around this and the placement and these Gestalt principles that was in the lecture before last. But color theory, super important. As many of these things as you can mention will be good. So go through this kind of stuff and what you write, because when you include elements like this, it gives you something extra to write about in your assignment. So using this as an example, you could explain why this was chosen as opposed to something like this, because this would impact somebody with color blindness. And you would have, so say your buttons, you could make them look like this. And now you have a rationale or you have a reason for these choices. So go back through the slides and try and fit in as many things as you can. Don't be afraid to search either. There's some very good websites. One that I use quite a lot, this would be a good one. And you'll get loads of good examples and good text and what have you. Another one is the UX Institute. Here, the Interaction Design Foundation. Tons and tons of really good stuff on this, and you can go in, say, and it will give you lots of links to. Now, this is an ad for a course, but it will give you links to articles. These are all courses. And you'll pick up loads of pointers in there. Then we moved on to prioritization. So do you all understand this word? So how to decide the importance of something. You all understand that word? So that will come up again and again. And then we looked at these matrix where you have, say, effort on this axis, value on this axis. So where would be a good place to start? Would be over here, wouldn't it? Because we have high value and low effort. Where should we avoid? So which of the quadrants should we avoid? No, yeah. And why is that? Because we have high effort and low value. So always try and look at things. There's different scoring systems. We looked at these. Of course, we would avoid this because it's going to cost us. This is what is going to give us the quick wins. And when you're looking at your tasks, usually you would have sort of post-its and you might have the potential features written down and then you would rank them different ways. And you can use the Moscow matrix. You can use this impact versus effort matrix. You can also use this desirability, variability, feasibility. We're going to look at that again today. So, is it something that people want? Is it something that we can build? And is it profitable and viable for the business? Ultimately, you're starting with this a lot of the time. You're trying to work towards it anyway, an MVP, minimal viable product. So the smallest working thing that you can ship and get out to your customers so you start getting feedback. Any questions on that? So that was the last day. Now, just moving on to today. So if we put this, right, into a scorecard. So what we're looking at is here we have features. On this list, they're just called items. Over here, we have their desirability. Here is their feasibility, and this is the viability. So can we do it? Will people want it? Is it realistic for us to do? And each of these is scored out of 10, and then you can see the scores go across. And you see the way that works? So this scoring method ranks items based on the sum of individual scores. You create a table with one row for each possible item, and then you have 3 columns for each of the criteria. And what you do, you think about the items or you discuss the items with your team, and you try and come up with scores. So on this list, which item do you think we should start with? Item 3, exactly, because it has the highest score. So which item should we avoid? Item 1, which is 12 points. So that has low desirability. We think, or we've been told, that customers don't want it. It's very feasible. It's very possible for us to do it. But there might be barriers in terms of keeping it going long term within the business. So you can use a score, something like this. So what you'll have to do,
I wanted to ask, how are such subjective things quantified by a simple score?
by look through discussion and through a hunch, really, because remember, we're trying to measure something that is very difficult to measure. What this does is it gives us a framework to make a strong guess. But remember, this is not an exact science. This is design. So this is the best guess we can make right now, which would be early in the project, and we try and make it using some sort of informed system. The trick with all these is to have a group of people and to discuss the thing and then try and come up with a score between the group. But you're right, it's not an exact science. It will give you a hunch because if you really think hard, and you remember we looked at this in more detail the last day. So if you really dig in to what each one of these means as best you can, so this would be the type of questions you would ask. What will this cost to build? What will the revenue model be? Will it be scalable? Is it viable for us to do? And say within a business, you would have that discussion as a team, and you might link in the finance director or the person who controls the money because you need to know, will this work? You might also need technical people to let you know that this is possible from a technical sense. You might need business model people that will tell you this works as a kind of a revenue model. And you would get the feedback from all those people, and that would just boil down into a very simple score here. And even within that group, the scores might be mixed. So say you had 4 people, you would say to them, what's your viability rating here on this? And you would discuss it. And then they might put forward their scores. And the score that you would put in here into the total might be the average of their scores and the conversations. And it is, remember, it's fancy guesswork, proceeding as best we can in a sort of a but without definite knowledge. Where this helps is if you have one score that's very high and you have one that's very low, you know that this isn't going to be a runner. So that informs you. But let's look at another example. But just keep the idea, because remember, for all of these methods, you can assign scores. So we could assign scores to these. We can assign scores in here. And really what we're looking for are hints and clues in how to move forward. And when you pop stuff into a table like this, it helps you see things and it helps you rank them. And we'll look at another table in a minute. So say we've scored all these as best we can, and we're scoring them and we're scoring them, and we have these totals now for each of the items. This item, the top rated item, it's 23. This one is the bottom rated item. It's only got 12 when we've scored it across the 3 columns. But what happens next? We need further prioritization, and we need to organize our feature list to help us make smarter decisions. Because ultimately, we're trying to align the features with different user goals, but also with the business needs. So an example could include having a path in our heads that moves from MVP, which is a small version of the product, later installing community features, and after that we install extra features. So that will be a fairly typical sequence of development. So we can sort these features different ways. We can look at them in terms of function. We can look at them in terms of goal or purpose. We can look at them in terms of frequency of use, and we can look at them in terms of complexity. How often will it be used? Will it be daily? Will it be weekly? How difficult is it to implement? Is it easy, low complexity, medium, or high? And all this helps us figure out a path to move forward. So this is a sample table that I put together, and it links to a Google Sheet. So let's open up the Google Sheet. We can have a look at it. You can see the screen. You can see all the cells. Let me just zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to hide these cells for now. Right now, just focus on this part. Now, can you all see that? So these are the features that we've decided we've come up with as a group. This is a little bit like on the list where it said item 1, item 2, item 3. So let's look at the first feature. And this is for, do you remember the fitness app that we were talking about the last day? So one of the things that we've decided to come up with are badge rewards. And these reward the users with digital badges for milestones. And that could be 100 kilometers run, blah, 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 whatever the feature is. And we've ranked these like this. And we've done that with our team. For the next one, this is a log, and it saves each complete workout. So it saves the progress of the user when they've finished their workout. The next feature, which is a friends list, it allows users to add and view friends in the app. So there's a function there that sort of social media related. The next one is an in-app shop, and that allows us to upsell workout plans and fitness gear via the app. We have leaderboards, that's another feature, and this displays the ranking of the users. We have premium video content, so it's linked to fitness experts. And we have a progress dashboard, which summarizes activity and goal completion. And we have workout reminders, and these are push notifications to remind the users to work out. So this is the list. We had a meeting, and these were all the types of things that we came up with. And we thought, you know what, let's see if we can rank these features a little bit better. We worked out our scores. We looked at our scores like we did in the previous table, and then these just map across. I'll show you my formula bar. So you see the way this just maps across? So we're summing these. So this is the score that goes across. See the way each of these? Now what we can do is we can rank them. And we'll put the high score at the top. Now, see the way this one has 28 points? And this one is 18. What we've done here is we've put the high score at the top. So that sort of shows us that there's a few things happening here. Like these scores, these three features now, just with the scoring ranking, seem to be above everything else. But that's fine, we've seen that. So let's add some other parts. And I'll zoom back so we can see everything together. We've assigned categories to each of the feature. Let's hide this so it's easier to see. And I'll hide these individual scores. So now we have the total score ranked from high to low, and we've assigned categories because this would be a kind of a core feature. A progress dashboard would be a core feature. Workout reminders would be a motivational feature. So really what we're doing here is we're assigning categories to our features. Can you see that? These are groups or categories. Then we look at how often we think they might use it. This would be daily because if you're using the app on any sort of a regular basis, these three will be daily. This is the level of complexity to implement. So what we can actually see then when we look at things like this, we have the score, we have the kind of the group, whether it's a core function or something just outside the most immediate things, whether it's daily use and the level to implement. So how much effort would it take to build us? So say this one down the bottom, we can see the complexity is high. So what I might do is I'll actually score these. Let me just zoom out for a sec. I'll color these so you can see them a little bit better. And hopefully this will help you see. Can you see the medium is in orange? And I'll score them a little bit like a traffic light system, just to help us all visualize them. Now, can you see that a little bit better?
Yes.
Where should we start? What features should we start with?
The ones with high DVF score and low complexity.
Exactly.
So
And
basic workout.
also when they're linked to core functionality, because without them, our MVP or it won't work, because these are basic features that the user needs. So anything with core functionality, we have to address, and we need to address that like at a very early version of the product. Because what we're trying to do in a way is what will we build now? What will we build next? And what will we build in the future? So what would we build in the future here?
And the
Yeah,
bench.
workout reminders. I don't know, maybe we should build it sooner because workout reminders, maybe we should build it now because when we look at it, it has a high score. It's not the highest, but it's pretty high. It's got frequency of use is daily. So the users are going to use this every day, and we know we can do it quickly. So really, there's a couple of starting points here for us. Like anything with a daily thing and a reasonably high score and a complexity rating that isn't high, we can look at pretty soon. So let's look at it. And again, this is a kind of a subjective path. Let me just open up the columns and I'll show you what I thought might be a good way of explaining it. So what we're doing here is we're starting with the features that score high with the DVF. We want to Pick ones that are frequently used and have low to medium complexity. Phase one, this is my proposal. And what I would do is I would bring this to the design team after scoring this out. I would say we're going to have phase one is a core build, and we're building our MVP. So you understand MVP? Minimal viable product. We've got that. So that's the smallest thing we can build and ship right now. What we're going to pick are these. The basic workout tracker, which is that, right? It's in the top. See, it's got the highest score. It's got core function. It's part of our core functionality. The next one we're going to go for is our workout reminder. Low complexity, daily use. It's not part of our core, but we think we could do it quite quickly, right? Our progress dashboard. Again, something that's under our core functionality. It's important for us to have because our app won't work without this. Usually something like a user logging in and out of an app is core functionality. Those type of features. It has medium complexity. We think we can do it with some effort. It has a high DF score. And then what we do is we work through each of these in terms of phases. And by using these categories and these different ways of looking at the situation, we can come up with a way then to prioritize the work that we're doing. Now, does this make sense to you guys? How using an approach like this through the scoring, through the grouping, looking at frequency of use and complexity, it gives us a path to move forward. See, phase one, phase two, phase three. Use this in your assignment. Build a table like this. This is an example. It's for the fitness app. Come up with your own example. Make up these scores. These scores are totally subjective. You're making these scores up. Just make sure they make sense in terms of the totals. Because what you want is you want to turn that table into a roadmap. Remember, you're trying to explain the design process to the person who's marking your assignment. So what did we learn from the table? So phase one focuses on daily use, low complexity, and high DVF scores. Let's look at those. Low complexity, high DVF. Low complexity, high DVF. So these ones, because of the scores, these were natural places to start. Phase two builds on this by adding motivational and social tools because we want to improve engagement. So motivational and social features. So this is our second round where we address core functionality first, then we look at motivational features and social features. The next phase, which is phase three, introduces things that have a higher complexity or have slightly lower priority in terms of their scores. Why do we use this method? Because it keeps our development realistic and goal-driven. It aligns our delivery with the user needs and the business priorities, and it allows us to show our thinking or our rationale for what's first, next, and last. This allows us to explain the why. And that's what you're trying to do in your assignment. Why? Here's the features. Here's the roadmap. Why did you pick this? So come up with a solution, generate a table. Apply this approach in your assignment. So use DVF scores or another scoring method. There are others. You can use the other things that we looked at. And this grouping logic, which is what the columns do in the spreadsheet, it allows us to be guided and to propose our development plans. This is super important you understand it. You would display a table. You don't need to build a table. Remember, the link for the spreadsheet is here. Don't copy my example. So download this spreadsheet or create one of your own. Change it around a little bit so that it doesn't look the same change the fonts, change the colors, that sort of stuff. Use this as a template. So really though, so if you wanted to have the columns, you would have feature, and then you would have your scoring. These scores map across to this, and it gives you a total, and then you rank the items highest to lowest. That gives you a really good start. Put in your categories, put in your functions, your frequency, your complexity. So use this as a template for your own idea. I'll jump to the end of the lecture because I want to show you a little bit about the assignment. They give you 4 different scenarios. Each of the following scenarios follows the same idea for an end product, but there are different customers and circumstances for use. So on each occasion, you're being asked to design and create an interface for a system that can be used by customers or clients to either place an order for goods or for services. So this gives you 4 separate scenarios. The first one is a veterinarian practice, and they're looking for a system to book appointments. So Vexing Vets is the name of the business. The second one is fabricated flights, and this is a budget airline, and it's looking for a system to place orders for goods and services using a touch screen that's on the headrest. This one isn't a website. This one is a website. This is more of a touch screen interface. The next one is a paintballing company, and it's looking for a booking system. The last one is a local racetrack, and it's looking for a system for bookings for parties, individuals, groups, that sort of stuff. So what you're being asked to do at the start is read them, pick which one you like, and then you'll be asked to build out an interface for them. And that could be a web page, or it could be something like that. As part of that, you'll need to explain the choices you made. And you need to reference lots of things in the slides. Why do I have this in my design? If we want to build this, what is the plan? And you can propose things like this because you can put the features. Each of those are going to need different features, slightly different features. And you can rank them and you can prioritize them. You can talk about color theory, all those type of things. So this type of stuff and the grouping logic, it gives a rationale and explains what's first, next, last, and the why behind it all. And if you do that in your assignment, you will get pretty good marks. And we'll look at the assignment again before the end. So there's basically 4 situations, and you pick one of them, and then you build out an interface as best you can. So let's move on. This concept of envisionment. And envisionment is the process of turning abstract ideas into something that we can see. And why do we need to see them? Really, we want to share them, discuss, and improve. And envisionment helps teams explore possible solutions and gradually refine them. So when we're talking about envisionment, really what we're talking about are things like sketches, wireframes, mood boards, prototypes, that type of stuff. A simple example, a sketch can help explore ideas quickly, but a more formal presentation would be needed to communicate concepts to a client. The main goal with envisionment is to externalize ideas, to get the ideas out of your head into the meeting room so that they can be communicated, discussed, tested, and refined. So we're going to talk about envisionment and the different ways to do it for the next couple of minutes. First envisionment technique, sketching. You all see that? Let me just zoom in a little bit. I'll just drag it.
Yes.
You can, let me just. What is this a picture of? It's just a sketch, isn't it? It looks like it's an app or image of the day, daily date, photo info, menu buttons. So it's a very rough prototype of an app because somebody sat down, they've drawn the device and they've put in, and they're starting the kind of the figuring out process. So send that to the back. Storyboarding. So there's one envisionment technique, sketching. The next one is storyboarding. What storyboarding does, it highlights how a user might move through a system or a process. It uses personas, which we looked at previously. And this is the example here of a guy, and I think he's just ordering stationery supplies. And it shows, and again, the point here is that you're visualizing a task. So he realizes he needs more post-its. And then he goes over to his desk and he has a written list. He puts it beside his computer. He goes to the website. He selects the items and eventually he receives the success window when he's made the purchase and the items are arrived and then they go back into the cupboard. So that's a storyboard. That's a picture of a task that a user might need to complete. And what it does then is it allows us as a design team to start thinking about the task. How can we help James? How can we bring some value to this? You see, a comic book is a storyboard. You see storyboards used quite a lot in another industry. So can anyone give an example? What's an example of storyboarding? What industry uses it quite a lot? I see they do it quite a lot with video and movies, where you actually plan out the shots. Comics. A comic is a storyboard. It's a series of events, and we're looking at the person. What it does is it pulls it out from into a room, and as a group, you would discuss this. And what it does then is it allows you to start to decide what's involved here. How can we help this person with their task, right? So the third type then are mood boards. Have you heard about mood boards before? They're collections of visuals and textures, sometimes quotes. Bring that to the front. Now, can you see the way all the colors here are matched? You see the way they're all sort of complementary? See, it's all these blues and grays and stuff. And so what they're doing then is they're coming up with as a team, you get a bunch of resources that you like. They can be pictures online, they can be cutouts from magazines, from other apps. Eventually, it will turn into something like this, where everything is stylized. Remember, go back to the color theory that we spoke about previously. Let's have a look at this other one. You see, this is a more vibrant design. It's got more yellows and stuff. And what you can do when you're building your interface is you can borrow inspiration from other people's designs. And you can go and you can look at some designs that you like. And what you do is you try and figure out your color palette. So these are all the colors that are used in the design. But all these feed in as ideas into that. So that's a mood board. People sometimes have mood boards for houses or for a room when they're decorating. These are all envisionment techniques. So each of these techniques supports ideation. That's the creative process of generating, developing, and testing new ideas. And it's a way of getting those ideas out of our heads and onto a desk or onto a wall so we can discuss them with our team. Next thing we'll look at, these are all techniques that people would use when they're building apps and websites. So navigation maps, have you come across these before for a website? So normally on a website, you would have a home page, and then within that, you would have sections. They could be drop-down menus, and then you might have sub-pages and more sub-pages off those. So here's an example. User goes to a home page, they click on About Us, and then they can go to the history page. Or if they want to go, say, to the careers, which is misspelled, they get a list of all the different job descriptions. So this is the architecture of the website. This is how the person moves through the website. Have you seen these sort of maps before of websites? They're called navigation maps, and they show how users move through a digital product. So even when you're on an app on your phone and you're clicking into it, you know the way you have to journey on the app different ways? That's the navigation. So what a navigation map does, and again, I would produce one of these for your assignment if you can, because it will show how the user needs to journey through it. Each page or screen is drawn as a box, and then you have arrows linking them that shows them where to go. And this helps spot poor navigation, things like orphan pages, which is a page where you get stuck in it. That actually still happens in apps. Sometimes you go into them and you get to a screen, you can't go back, and the only thing you can do is quit the app and start it again. And drawing these maps helps refine the user flow. How will the user go through the app? And by walking through a scenario using the map, designers can test whether users can complete tasks smoothly. So navigation maps are used for websites, but for any system that requires user journeys. So think of a parking meter, think of a kind of a touch screen interface in an airport. All those have navigation maps. If you click on the link, you get lots of really good examples, and it goes into more detail. It talks about different types of navigation menus. Sometimes they're on the top, sometimes they're on the side, sometimes they're what they call breadcrumbs. You have full screen navigation. You have this hamburger menu that we're all used to. So you can go in and use some of the resources from that link for your project. It gives you a vocabulary to explain things, to say, for this app, there is a top-based navigation menu, or it's on the left, or it's on the left and the top. So being able to talk about this gives you things to say. So let's move on. So that's navigation maps.
I have a very quick one. Are there any particular websites that are used to make navigation maps? Are there any recommendations?
No, what I would use is I would use a tool like PowerPoint or something like that. Because really all you need, yes, there are tools that will help you build this, but something that would be easy to use is something like this Google Slides thing. Or let me show you, like even the tool I am working with now, which is the Mac version of PowerPoint. Because really all I'm doing is I'm grabbing a bunch of shapes and then I'm putting the shapes in different sequences. And see what I'm doing? You could do this in PowerPoint. So this could be my second row of navigation. Above that, I would have my home page. So see what I'm doing? You basically draw the lines between the shapes. And under this, you would have other shapes. So when you look at that diagram, it's really just boxes and squares with arrows or whatever. So I can build that out. The thing you'll build won't be very complicated. It's not going to look like this. You won't have as much detail as that. You'll have slightly less detail. And then all you do is you get your shapes. So here's the arrow, just format that. So it's a little bit thicker. And now I can move this around, can't I, to point at different things. Do you know? This sort of thing. So as long, and remember, it's not an art competition for your assignment. So as long as you can move things around and reposition them as best you can, and because remember, you'll come up with a design and you'll change it over time. So something like this would be fine. I think if you try and learn a new tool between now and when the assignment is due to be submitted, it might be difficult for you. I think the easiest thing is just to use some PowerPoint sort of system where you can move the blocks around quite freely like this. You can put a line, so if we get rid of that one, now I just click on that and that goes down to here. I'll do another one. I'll put it here, but this block will go over to here. So now that one's in the way, move it across. So see what I'm doing? So I'm just moving things around quite freely. And it'll take a little bit of tinkering. So I think being able to move the blocks will help you. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
No problem. You're trying to come up with something like this. It won't need to be that sort of level. The next thing is around prototypes. So this is where you build a sort of a dummy version of the project. You're talking about two different types. You have lo-fi prototypes, lo-fi, and then you have what we would call hi-fi. They would be more detailed and they would be more clickable and that sort of stuff. Stuff like this is a lo-fi prototype, where the example we looked at, where you just draw out the sketch. You draw it out as best you can. You don't need to be fantastic at art. You can just use simple stick people, and you sit there and you go through 10 pieces of paper with a pencil and an eraser. They're lo-fi prototypes. High fidelity or hi-fi prototypes are a little bit different. It just looks more professional. So this would be example of a Miro board, which is like an online tool. There are a link here to different wireframing tools. Some of them are free to join, so I'd go in, follow the link. Some of them might be overkill for your project, but you can certainly try them out and use them. They're nice to play with as well if you're interested in graphic design. What it does is it gives you bunches of shapes to work with when you're trying to formalize a design. This would be a step up from a lo-fi prototype, something like a sketch, but there's a progression. You start simple, start with post-it, start with bits of paper, then move into a more detailed kind of kit. This is a template I came across. It might help you, and the link, it's just Google Slides, and what it has lots of sort of elements that you might use. So look, I can click in here, I can change the name, I can change the text here. I could add another, click on that, and I hit duplicate, I can add another text box, I can move them around, I can change the background color, I can do all those sort of things. And it gives a couple of different options. One is more like a laptop or a desktop setup. This is more like an app. So you can go in and you can use this template kit if you want. What it does is it gives you lots of sort of components or buttons. Remember, you can change the text on these buttons. You can also add in elements, isn't there, an insert. So you can go in, you can use that template. So select template from the top left. If you go in here, it gives you all these other options as well. So something like that might help you when you're trying to explain your design to people. And remember the link to that as well. I think the trick is to start now and to start just playing around, get a handle on it, maybe go in, say, look, I like the idea of this project or that one or the paintballing or the vet's business. What you're doing then is you're trying to come up with a prototype that looks something like this. So this is a very basic kind of prototype. It's got a browser window. It's got some icons. It's got a top-based menu. It's got a homepage logo, that sort of stuff. It's got a picture and it's got some text. So even something like this would be absolutely fine in terms of the standard that you need to produce. And you can just do this in PowerPoint or in Google Slides or something. So do you think you might be able to create something like this? You're still with me? You start with a sort of a backdrop. You can add navigation elements as well, because let me just go. So if I click on this link now, it's going to take me to another slide. So I'm adding links here, and that will take me to my products page. And then if I want to go back to my home page, I click that. So see the way my links now. So I'm simulating a user moving through a website, and I'm just building out something very simple with a browser window some text. I could also use a kind of a phone setup. You could do it a couple of different ways because I could be using cutouts like this and I could show the progression. If I wanted to just show a screen, all I need is a square box. There was another class. Let me just open this presentation. This was from another class that I did previously. One of the things was around a booking system for a vets. Again, simple browser window, logo for the business, different elements that you would click on. So really what you're doing is building out something that's easy to look at, makes sense. That design progressed into something more advanced. I can show how to work through my design. If it was on a mobile app, I can have a click icon like this, and I can show them that step 1, click here, step 2, click here. And I'm doing this, I'm communicating the story with pictures. And remember, these are just cutouts that we're using. One to simulate a sort of a desktop environment, the other one for an app. These are just blocks of text with different names. And when you click it, you go to somewhere different on the website. So this is the booking page for Happy Pets. And then the person has to select, and I'm writing up what's happening in the text as well as giving them something that they can click through. So let me just get out of this. So what I would say between now and the next day, look at this slide in particular and start thinking about which of these you're going to pick for your assignment. I'm not sure, do we have these templates? In which templates? The one I've just shown you? This one? No, because you have to build them. Because you remember, this is just a bunch of blocks. So you would start with something, let me see, like this. Let's get rid of all that. And then what I would do is I would go in here, browser window, PNG. I don't know. It's after this course finishes plus another week or so. So I don't mark the assignment, so you would have to double check with the college. But you'll have a little bit of time to do it. So what I would do is I would go in and let's click into images, and then we'll search for a large image because we want it to be good resolution. And we'll find something like this. By the way, this is just a browser window. Even something like that would work fine. And then what we do is we insert that into a page. See, these are all just cutouts of browser windows. And that's your backdrop. And then what you do is you start adding your blocks to it. So you could also do like iPhone. So here's your backdrop. Now build out your interface as best you can. I hope that all helps, guys. Start looking at this final slide and start thinking, do a little bit of online research. Go in and look at other vets. Look at their booking systems and borrow some of the ideas from it. I will chat to you soon and have a great couple of days, and let's catch up again.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.